After unwrapping the UV of the low-res meshes, you are now ready to bake the textures from high-res to low-res. We need to organize the high-res meshes and their low-res counterparts into two separate collections within the outliner. After naming the objects, we need to apply a multi-res modifier and a shrink wrap modifier to each of the low-res meshes. The shrink wrap modifier should be below the multi-res modifier in the Modifiers tab. Then in the shrink wrap modifier, set the target by using the eyedropper tool and pointing it to its high-res counterpart. Doing this will now allow the low-res mesh to conform to the high-res mesh as you subdivide. I made a vertex group here named include that includes only the vertices that need to unwrap to the high-res mesh. This excludes the vertices in the inner eye and mouth areas. I am going to subdivide 2 more times, which gives me a total of 5 subdivision levels. After subdividing, I would then press Ctrl A in the Modifiers tab to apply the shrink wrap modifier. I'm now left with just the multi-res modifier. As I disable the Peashooter_high's visibility, you can now see the Peashooter_low with all the details baked from its high-res counterpart. I disable the multi-res modifier real-time button just to check the UVs. This was the previous normal map bake I did. I will be redoing this again to the other parts so you can see the steps. I'm going to start creating the curvature map. This allows for enhancing the surface details of the texture. First, press Shift and A in the shader editor and select the geometry node. After creating the geometry node, I would then create a color ramp node. Connect the pointiness of geometry node to the factor of color ramp. Shift Ctrl on the color ramp to quickly connect it to the material output for quick preview. Adjust the color ramp's colors like so, where you squeeze in the black and white colors so there's a little transition between two colors. It's very important to switch to the viewport shading to be able to see the effect. Set the render engine to cycles. Then, set the device to GPU compute. Squeezing in the black colors to the white colors further enhances the visibility of the details. Next, I'll set the render settings in the Render Properties tab as you see me doing here. Disable the bake from multi-res and set the bake type to emit. Next, create an image texture node. I then set the texture resolution. Name it to something that you can easily identify. In the Browse Image drop-down, select that image name you just created. Press N to enable the properties region to your right. Press the plus button to add a tile and set it to 1002 so it creates a UV tile right next to 1001. Press OK. Make sure to enable the camera icon in the outliner and then press Bake. The curvature map is now baked. Next step is to save the baked curvature map by going to Image and pressing Save. Make sure to include the UDIM word in naming your file and enclosing it inside the brackets so it saves both texture files from both UDIMs. The curvature texture maps are now saved from both UDIM. Switch back to EV Engine and test the newly baked curvature maps by Shift-Control clicking on the image texture of PS_CM. We now have a curvature map working correctly as you can see. This is now the point where I'm organizing the low-res meshes and high-res meshes for the rest of the parts by naming them properly with either an _high or low at the end of each name. Also placing them in the proper collection. Doing this early on will allow you to have a smooth and easier baking process. After properly organizing and naming both the high and low-res meshes, you are now ready to bake the other normal maps. Again, we need to go to the shading editor. Press Shift A to create another image texture node. Set the resolution and the name. Make sure the tiled checkbox is enabled and its 32-bit float. We now have an image texture node that will contain the baked normal maps. In the image browser dropdown, select the image name that's just been created. Press N, go to Image tab, click the plus button to add another UDIM tile and press OK. After that setup, go to the Render Properties tab, make sure the render engine is set to cycles, and in the Bake section, set the bake type to normal, enable selected to active. Lastly, in the outliner, select the high-res mesh and low-res mesh and press Bake. We now have a baked normal map, but there's a lot of artifacts as you can see. To fix this, increase the value of the extrusion and press Bake again. As you can see, increasing that extrusion improves the result of the bake as well. There's a part in the map that needs to be fixed. The stem of the leaf is too close to that part where it baked itself to the other part. So I just need to move them further away from each other and rebake. That part is now fixed. Now it's time to save, keeping in mind the naming format where UDIM is enclosed in brackets. There are few more that have this same issue. Fix them the same way by tweaking the extrusion value. We are now have a much improved bake result. That's it for the baking. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.